you divorcing a narcissist? If you are, then today I've got two very special guests that we are going to talk about some of the factors in divorcing a narcissist. Today, my guests are TH and Jessica from the exExperts, and they've got a great podcast out there that helps people going through a divorce. They're divorce coaches, and one of them also divorced a narcissist. So we're going to break down some of the things that we need to know and what we don't need to hold on to during a divorce, because often this stuff gets thrown at us and we react. That's what the narcissist wants. So when we talk to the girls in a few seconds, we're going to get the information that we need to get through this divorce with as much of our sanity as possible. So without any further ado, let's welcome TH and Jessica. Hi, ladies. I'm so excited to have you on my channel.
Thank you so much for having us here today. We are super excited to be working with you, Tracy.
I am honored that you guys are here. And we're going to jump in today. We're talking about divorcing a narcissist. And as divorce coaches, you guys have this come through your door once in a while. And I know that you've got some personal experience. So what would you say are the most challenging things when someone's going to be divorcing a narcissist?
Well, I'm going to tell you my personal story. I didn't know what a narcissist was. I never heard the word before. And when I went to my therapist with my then husband, my therapist pulled me back. We went to see her because I wanted her to tell us how to tell our kids. So he went along willingly. There's definitely a honeymoon, like right when you say, I want a divorce, there's like a honeymoon divorce stage. I don't know what it is, but he was doing what I asked. So we had that session, and then my therapist pulled me back and she goes, we need to have a talk. Do you know what a narcissist is? And this is who he is. And your divorce is going to be very, very difficult. And we are going to work on you starting right now to teach you to become like Teflon. The words, the tone, the facial expressions, the body language. We're going to teach you to only listen to facts and not be hurt by noise. And that is how it started for me. And so I would tell anybody who has, everyone was telling me that you're not married to somebody who's treating you well and all of that, but I also wasn't hearing it. It takes sometimes someone different to say the same thing. And you're like, oh my God, no one ever said that to me before. Meanwhile, they've all been telling me that. So I would tell anybody, first of all, if you've been in a place where you feel like you have not had a voice and you have very low self-esteem and you were more comfortable being alone than with your spouse at home with you, then get a therapist, a really, really, really good therapist who gives you tools and teaches you to move on. So that would be the number one thing I would say, because ultimately for me, and I think for most people in that type of a relationship, you have to control your response because nothing else is under your control with that type of a person. And so learning that some things are bad patterns and some things are noise and some things you're just going to have to let it be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you can't change it and you can't fix it. There's no such thing, by the way, everyone. We're not fixers. I thought I was a fixer, not fixing anything, not people for sure.
No, we can't change somebody, right? And that's the bottom line. What your therapist said was like brain numbingly perfect. Like it is just like, you're going to hear things that aren't going to be pretty. You're going to react to them. The narcissist's goal is to get you to react so that you are not looking at what they're doing. I envision the curtain at the Wizard of Oz. What's behind the curtain, little girl, right?
Right.
You don't look at them because you're sitting there like in trauma going, but I'm not a bad mother. I didn't steal money. You're defending these lies that come at you at rapid fire from the person you've been sleeping next to for 10 years or 20 years, right?
Right.
Who does that? So what she was saying is know what the truth is. And that's such a valuable way to start this conversation, because it had to hurt when you heard things that were simply not true. But did that help you not hold on to them?
Well, what it really helped me do is realize that I'm not crazy. And there's really, like you said, like I'm not a bad mom.
Mhm.
I'm not all the things that I was being told, all the messages that were being fed and repeated into my brain were actually not true. Like I'm pretty cool. Like I'm good. Like the shit that whatever my kids went through, is just stuff that would happen anyway. It wasn't my fault.
Mhm.
Nothing here was my fault. So no matter how I would try to change myself, well, if I do this, then this won't happen. If I do this, then he won't, whatever.
Mhm.
It didn't matter if I did anything or not. I was wasting my energy. So really like the education of it all really, really helped me understand what I'm capable of, what I am worth,
Mhm.
and that I can do this. Like I'm going to be okay. I don't have to go back to this type of a relationship again. I'm going to be okay, but I needed that kind of support. My friends, Jessica's like a different kind of friend because my other friends weren't going through divorce with me. So they didn't understand and they were trying, but saying hire a private detective and I know that this is happening and whatever. By the way, that was my mother also saying those things. Like when it all came out, I kind of didn't want to hear it again.
Mhm.
Like I get it. I'm gonna go over to this corner now and kind of figure out my stuff.
Mhm. Wow. Yeah. There's so much. And Jessica was your friend through this. She was going through
Yeah.
a divorce, but not with a narcissist. So
Right.
Jessica, how did you help TH?
I
Like,
mean, look, I think I mean, I'm not a therapist, so I can't help in that regard in terms of like teaching her the strategies and the techniques that she needed to learn to be able to like focus on what she needed to focus on. So I think that for both of us, it was really just about being there as support and listening. I mean, I certainly wasn't, I think part of how I helped was not being one of those negative, toxic voices telling her what she should be doing or shouldn't be doing. Like everyone's got to kind of figure it out for themselves. And she was doing the work. I feel like what I've learned over time, not even just back then, but particularly like in the last 2 years since we launched exExperts and have recently been doing a number of our podcast interviews and articles and stuff with regards to narcissists and how that process becomes more challenging. I think that it's really important for anyone who has a loved one who's going through that process and dealing with someone like that to really just let them know like that you're there for them, that you are there as a shoulder to lean on, as an ear, to listen and to be there and not be like dictating what you think is the best way for them to handle it. Because the truth is, unless you're in that situation, you have no idea the best way to handle it. There are so many elements of narcissists. There's not just one type. So you need to be supportive of anyone so that they feel like they can talk about it with you and not that they're going to be judged by you as to like, how do you let this happen, or how can you keep letting this those kinds of things. I feel like it's just adding to the noise. Like I just think it's really important to kind of be there and let them know that you're there to help however you can when they're ready.
Right. And also Jessica was just there. Like
literally like a bump on a log.
but nothing had to be said.
right.
Just her like standing next to me, sitting next to me. Like she was like, she got my back. She was lock and step with me. And that's not an easy thing to find in a friend. But I think the listening is ultimately what helped both of us through our divorces and moving on. So I would say for any friend, just be a good listener. Just give a hug. Just sit there.
And believe
No
that.
words have to be said at all.
If you think about it, like the people that question, well, no, your husband was the nicest person. I don't know what you're
Ugh.
talking
You
about.
can't, right.
Like that kind of garbage that comes into your head is only adding to the confusion. If
Right.
they thought that your ex was a lovely, charming person, hold that to yourself. Right now we're in war. You're not helping me by going, but are you sure? Are you really, really sure?
Right,
All
right,
of that sort of, this is not a decision that anyone comes to easily, but when
right,
you have friends that are invalidating like what you're saying because you've been silent and didn't talk about the fact that they were abusive for 10 years, all of a sudden, well, maybe you're just making it up. Maybe you're, and all of those
Being
dumb things
oversensitive. Right.
really hurt the victim. And, believing them is just like, I do believe you. I'm so sorry that happened. Validating with a simple word like that versus, well, trying to get more information out of it. Sometimes we don't want to talk. Sometimes
right,
Right.
there's times where, like you said, she was just here. I had someone that if I needed them at 2 a.m, I knew she'd get in her car and be there.
right, right, right. And look, we have friends for different purposes. We have our party friends, we have our hiking friends, we have our whatever friends. But when the going gets tough, I'm fortunate to have a great group of friends, but Jessica like just really just listens. And by the way, the other side of it is it also doesn't help us for you to remind me of what an incredible, you know, am I allowed to curse on this show?
Sure.
Jackass he is. Like, I
Not
don't
even a
need
curse.
you, whatever, but it's not like a nice word. I don't need to be reminded of that either, because
Right.
the thing is, it might make me feel good and be like, oh, yeah, yeah. But you know what? That makes me sit in that crappy spot. That doesn't help me move forward. So people don't know that. So
Mhm.
it's not with ill intent that you say that, but just know that that just reinforces us to be in that place of anger, as opposed to being like, all right, I'm good. I'm going forward now,
Right.
Yeah. And if you think about it, I recommend to friends that, when we're in that like PTSD shock, like just blindsided, whatever it was, we're just in this confusion. We don't have time to go and research it. To have a friend go and look something up for you and go, honey, this would be a really helpful book. Can I get it for you? Or if you
Mhm.
want to order some divorce books and have them sent to my house, I'd be totally happy to do that for you. Because again, how are you going to get the divorce books if your friend doesn't help you? Right. So to offer
Right,
things like that, that are just, I'm there for you, bringing soup and
Right.
doing the normal things that you would do to say someone who's sick is just
right.
sit there and go, you know what? I hear you and I know what you're going through and I'm here if you need me, and be there to support her.
Something else that I read about when Sheryl Sandberg's husband had that sudden heart attack and she wrote her book. I read her book and she said, people will come up to me and say, how are you? How you doing?
Yeah.
And she wrote, that's like a huge question. Like, where do I begin? How am I? I don't know. How am I yesterday? How am I this whole year? How she said, so her suggestion to anybody is to ask, how are you doing right now?
Mhm.
Because I know how I am right now at this moment to check in. And Jessica and I, definitely pay that forward with the people that we support. And I think that that's a really helpful thing to check in and be like, how are you feeling right now, Tracy? Okay, I can capture that, but don't give me anything more than that. My brain is like on overload.
Absolutely. And just be there to support, to help with let's go through the file drawer together and we'll pull out and find the things that we need to help you do that paperwork, whatever it is.
Right, right.
Mhm.
That's the most important thing.
Or help shred.
The wedding photos?
Help print out all the bank statements
Oh
and make
yeah.
photocopies.
Oh yeah.
That's helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Get me a gift certificate to Staples to make.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah, don't bring me soup. I need a Staples gift card.
I need a stapler and I need a staple remover.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's so much that goes on here. So let's just talk about some of the challenges that happened or that can happen. We've talked sort of about the communication and our friendships and our support that we need, but narcissists are famous for hiding money, for lying, for smearing, and, just basically gaslighting the heck out of their people. And, to me, gaslighting in divorce is just on an epic proportion. By the way, did you hear that it is the word of the year in 2022?
I'm not surprised.
It became the word yesterday. So it's
Wow.
kind of a big, big thing. I was like, yay, we made it.
Right.
Gaslighting.
Yeah, but now you have to understand what it is and
Right.
take it seriously.
Absolutely. Because when they're telling people that, we've been married for 15 years and, you have no right to anything. I'm going to take the kids. You're not going to be a parent at all.
You're not good enough.
I'm not paying any money to you. You don't even get a couch out of this deal. You came with nothing. You're leaving with nothing. And that keeps victims frozen who have no other way out. If they are literally financially dependent on this person, that gaslighting keeps them at bay.
Yeah.
Until the reality sinks in that, oh gosh, they just filed for divorce and now I've got to find $10,000 to give to a lawyer and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. It's so overwhelming.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Also, I didn't know that was what was happening to me. It did make me feel again that I wasn't crazy because there's like a word and a definition that goes with it. And it wasn't just like in my head that something was wrong with me. It's a slow burn. It's a slow burn. Started from childhood, as I'm sure most people are recognizing once they start going to therapy. It's really just interesting how we buy into the negative messages so easily. But it's also on TV and it's on the radio, and it's for me like with body image and stuff, like the supermodels and their hair and their, they don't have a big butt back in the day. Now they do. But I'm just saying, like, how you identify and you're like, oh my God, I want to look like her. You can't look like her. You're only going to look like you, and you look fab. Like really owning that is kind of a humble thing. And also, our culture, well, that's like a little conceited of you, don't you think? Like, who the hell do you think you are? So there's just like there's negative messaging everywhere. And then when you come home and it's reinforced, it's bad. So I would just say, don't believe what you hear and trust your gut. I wish I had trusted my gut. I wish I trusted it. I was afraid of the truth that the gut was presenting. I was afraid. And that's what kept me in my marriage longer than I needed to be there.
I think I would also say to anyone who's going through a situation who is divorcing a narcissist, like if you know that that's the case, which just, as a quick aside, we talk all the time about the fact that people use the term narcissist far too freely and openly these days. And it has a significant meaning to it. And so while there are people out there that may have certain characteristics that seem narcissistic, like to actually be a true narcissist is something on its own. And it's important that people are not just using it as a throwaway term, but for someone who is going through that process to be able to know and hopefully to be able to work with a legal team and experts around you who also know and understand that and can support you in the right way. Because part of the problem can be that the tone coming from the narcissistic spouse and their attorneys can come across to like reverberate the same toxicity and negative messaging and aggression that you've been facing all of these years. And I feel like if the lawyers don't understand, then their tone back is going to feed right into that. And it's just going to be this perpetual
part of the problem.
Cycle.
Yeah.
And so it's important that you have people around you that understand what you're dealing with and that you can not help, but like work with them to make sure that the tone coming across is what you want to represent to the best of your ability and not just feed in and be reactionary to what their side is doing. Cause it's the whole thing again.
It's just a game, right? To a narcissist, divorce is a game and they have to win at any cost. So, ripping you apart from the children, yeah, no big deal. Like whatever it is, they've got no empathy, right? A true narcissist compared to the assholes that people have divorced, right?
But yes, it just needs to be that you make sure that your legal team, if you're working with a divorce coach, if you're working with, you know, a financial advisor or forensic accountants, that everybody knows what they're dealing with as a whole to be able to get you through the process in the most productive way.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about the importance of a lawyer understanding that you're divorcing a narcissist? Because everybody wants to shout it from the rooftop, and lawyers are like, no, 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 no. You know, they're not going to diagnose. They know what it looks like, but it's a tightrope walk.
They're not going to diagnose, and nor should they. But if you are in a situation where you already have that information, like TH did, then if you can communicate that to your lawyer, then that's going to be a helpful piece of information. We also know that there are a number of lawyers out there, certainly not all, although it would be amazing if they all were, but there are a number of lawyers out there that actually have like a psychology background of some sort, some degree. Some actually are licensed clinical social workers themselves, or have gone through different types of psychology courses. And so maybe if you know that you are dealing with a narcissist, that's something that you are looking for when you're looking for a lawyer. That's someone who understands behavioral concepts. We literally spoke to a lawyer yesterday who was saying that part of what because she has a little bit of a psych background, that part of what she's doing when she's in her meetings is like kind of analyzing the behavior and the reactions from people in the room so that she can, you know, have the most productive negotiations or deal with things in that, you know, in the best way for her client. So that actually, they're unicorns, but there are actually more of them than you might think. So I would say, I mean, TH can chime in, but like, I would say that it is something that I would want to talk to my lawyer about, because if I had a lawyer who was dismissive of me in saying that, oh, everybody says their spouse is a narcissist, I don't know that that's the lawyer that would be the right fit for me, because I need someone who I feel like I'm partnering with and we're like going into this together, not someone where I have to be defensive, where I feel like they're blowing off the shit that I'm saying.
Right.
The two other things. So one thing is, we also spoke to this amazing parent coordinator who's like a pioneer for parent coordinators in New Jersey. And she does have a psych degree. And when she does work with parents who cannot communicate and cannot figure out what's best for their kids, she does analyze the situation so she knows how to help them.
Mhm.
Because if you don't have all the facts, then what you're putting out there and requiring of each of them in a parenting agreement may be completely unattainable if you don't understand the characters in the play. I would say that, you know, it's hard when you first meet an attorney, because I was, as happy as I was to be out of my marriage, I didn't have any idea of the extent of damage to me. And fortunately or not, we were in it for 4 years together. So as I went through therapy, I learned and grew and was able to speak up to my lawyer. And I don't even know if I told her of the diagnosis, but she knew he was a difficult person. So I don't know, but he was, you know, I can't speak for her, but not reasonable, not negotiating, not compromising, sending me to every single expert to try desperately to make me look like a bad mother, an uneducated person with a master's degree, like doing everything, spending the money, putting me through the ringer. And it did take its toll on me. It was really hard. I mean, he was engaged to somebody else. Like, what are you doing with me? Let me go. That was the can't make this shit up button. You have to like, you need an easy button like Staples that like beeps every time you press it. But it's hard when you first go to a lawyer and to have a clear head and what you want to do. So that's why we really do literally give you the questions and support you through that process, because your brain is mush. I'm getting a divorce. What's happening to my kids? Where am I going to live? How am I going to support myself? I'm a stay-at-home mom. Now I need to get a job. And who's he with now? And who's she with now? Like, holy crap, it's a lot. It's a lot. And then you're making your most important decision about your lawyer. So my advice is make sure you have somebody there with you. My father was there with me, which was really important.
Mm.
because he's not coming from, you know, a gaslighting situation, and he's not coming from being married to my ex-husband,
Mhm.
but he knows well enough about what I was dealing with. So I would say, make sure that when you go to your lawyer, you have someone with you taking notes that you can trust, your brother, your bestest friend in the world, who's never going to say anything, because we know that friends are the family that you choose, right? So your brain is just not going to function, but you will get there.
Right.
So I liked you were saying about dealing with an attorney. I think it's fine to ask as long as you're super aware. I was told, but I still don't know what the hell that meant. Okay, so now you put a name on it and I'm not crazy. What do I do with this lawyer? Like, I don't know.
I
Two
have so
years
many,
in, I started to have a voice,
yeah. I have so
but
many
it
clients,
takes
as you
time.
guys probably do, that play the lawyer hopscotch game. Like, you know, some of them
We
are
do.
on
We
it.
have a lot of people who go from lawyer to lawyer.
And you know, it's I think managing expectations with a lawyer in the very beginning is important,
Sure.
because we just assume, hey, we just gave you this giant check and you're going to take care of me.
And be my slave.
Yeah, and the reality is they pick up your folder when they have to. You know, you've sent them 85 emails and they haven't answered the first one, so you just keep sending more and more. Just envision that as, you know, $100 walking out the door every time
Totally.
you did it.
Yep.
So what is their communication strategy with the lawyer so that you don't end up having a $20,000 bill when they haven't actually done anything, but you've sent them all this stuff? This is why coaches and therapists are so important, to guide you through that emotional wheel, so you're not using your lawyer as the therapist.
Exactly.
Right.
They just did this. Oh no, like they locked the doors. They did this, whatever it is, whatever the trauma of the minute is, because it's not even by the day, it is hourly that something else is happening. Know when to use your lawyer and when not to, because those are going to rank up. And then you're going to also feel like they're not doing what you want them to do because you didn't have the expectations. But who has expectations? Like you just said, I didn't even know I was like with a narcissist, nor did I. I didn't know I was with a narcissist until 5 years after my divorce. And
Right. Like,
I
what does
thought
that
it was
even
the
mean?
worst.
What does that mean for me? What does that mean?
Right.
Had someone just given me a clue, I would have been able to find the answers and the words. And, you know, it affects everything. Once you have that
Totally does.
foundation, you can dial back the thing on your reactions, because as we started off saying, you know, they're going to throw stuff out there, you know, be prepared to not let it stick to you. And so this is all part of the thing, whether it's the lawyer being part of your team and knowing how to manage them. Most people just assume that they hire them and they'll do their job, but it's like, I expect an answer within this many days. Is that something
Right.
you can achieve? You know, is
Right.
something I can get from hiring?
Right. Is that realistic?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And
I
just,
would also say that, you know, it doesn't end when your divorce is granted, especially if you have kids. You have to co-parent with this person. So really taking the time to work with a really great therapist that'll make you dig deep and make you take responsibility and accountability. Look, I wasn't a bad mother and I wasn't a bad husband, but I allowed bad behavior. I can't let that happen again. Not to me, not to the people I love. And it is a process of learning, because then you're in a new relationship, or then you have a graduation for your child and you all have to show up together. How am I going to show up now? And creating boundaries that make sense. Like, I went to my daughter's birthday, which was 6 months after we separated, with him and his girlfriend and our kids. My kids were 8, 6, and 4. I had no business being there. The snarkiness, the comments, handing me the bill. I wanted to crawl out of my own skin. I put myself in that position because I was like, my daughter needs us both there. You know what? She didn't. She just needed her mom, and we would have had a great birthday dinner and it would have been okay. And even today, now my daughter's like, we're not doing stuff together anymore. Just a heads up. This is what I want. Nobody's comfortable. You're all trying, appreciated, but it's not genuine. So I'd rather have a genuine experience with each of you than have an uncomfortable experience with all of you.
Right.
And so just make sure that talk to your kids like, hey, do you mind if we just kind of do something on our own? And then your dad will go and do something on his own for your birthday. Don't assume that they want all of you together, because they may not. And you know what? That makes it a hell of a lot easier for you to move on and to cope. That definitely set me back
Yeah.
showing up for that dinner.
Oh God, I remember those sort of really awkward things. And my son's father having to come to his high school graduation and sit with my new husband and his whole family. Like, I can't imagine what that did to him. But you know, it was his graduation. He came, fine. But it's such an awkward thing that
Yeah.
we have to really protect our children from seeing that. Jessica, how is co-parenting when it's not a narcissist?
I mean, I think that there are so many different versions of what it can look like. I have what I'm told by a lot of people is a more unusual situation, because I'm actually really good friends with my ex. And so we get along great, and co-parenting is pretty easy. I mean, we don't always see eye to eye on exactly what we're okay with in terms of letting the kids do this or that. But I had to learn years ago, it was a huge growth step for me, that I cannot micromanage what's happening with my kids when they're with their dad. He means well. He loves them to death. He's a really good, engaged and involved father. And we do things very differently. But it's easy in the sense that if we need to switch nights, or, you know, like our parenting agreement says that we're supposed to swap Thanksgiving every year, but every year my family goes away on a big Thanksgiving trip, and my parents live farther away than his parents do. So for the last 8 years, I get my kids Thanksgiving every single year, and he's fine with it. So I think that it makes it easier. I think even if you don't have that type of a situation, co-parenting with someone who's not a narcissist is very likely more, you know, easier, because it gives you more opportunity to be able to negotiate with each other and work with each other. You're going on vacation, you're going to be away one of the nights that was your night. Can you swap a night for another night? I definitely know people who their spouses are so by the book, they cannot, there can be no deviation at all ever from anything, you know, that's in the agreement. And there's a lot of inflexibility. So I think that's probably what it is. I think if you are co-parenting with someone who's not a narcissist, you probably have the opportunity for a lot more flexibility than you would otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, I stuck to my agreement 100%, because we spoke
let it
about
go.
this yesterday with you, Tracy, like, you know, setting up these kind of boundaries and taking the surprise element out of things when you're divorcing a narcissist, and even a difficult person, is your safety net. You can always try to adjust it, but at least you know you have a really good plan if you can't adjust it.
And if you think about like the parenting plan, and I don't want to get into that because we'll talk about that another day, but if you think about that as a boundary document, this is what we're going to do when. And so the more you can do it in the divorce process, it's going to be less fights later. There's no question. If your kids need braces, we've thought of that. We have a solution. If you have any kind of situation that you need to understand in advance, plan for it. Think about those things, because if it is with a narcissist, it is not going to be a Jessica story of love and friendship.
That's right.
That's the Brady Bunch thing, right? A narcissist, or like, you know, the War of the Roses, or, you know, just
we handle business.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I've learned to stick to the facts. Everything's in an email. Nothing's in a text. We have very few phone calls. And it's business. And that's all it is. I make sure that it's concise. I read everything before I send it, sometimes a few times. I don't put any emotion into anything. This is what I'm doing. This is how it's happening. This is the record of it. That's it. I could be sending it to a stranger.
And
that's what there's no tone in what I send.
Right. And that's how you protect yourself, right? Because if you show the emotional vulnerability of anything,
and just open the door to a windstorm.
Right.
A shitstorm. Let's be swear.
We're gonna wind would be better.
Is there anything else that you want to close with to just share with, someone who might be divorcing a narcissist?
I want to say that you are going to be okay. You are going to be okay. And this is an opportunity for you to grow and discover yourself and own yourself and feel pride and empowerment and really lead your best life, whatever that looks like. You are going to be fine because you're going to be educated, because you're listening to this podcast right now. And I'm sure you're reading some of Tracy's stuff, and listen to the Divorce Etc. podcast and all the resources out there for you. You are not alone, and you will be okay. That's what you need to know.
I would say, just from what I've learned, it's really important to not look back and beat yourself up and blame yourself, wondering, how did I end up in this situation? I just wasted 20 years of my life. Like, how did I end up here? I think that it happens. And even if you were not married to a narcissist, I mean, I divorced a guy who had been having an affair for several years, including when I was pregnant with my daughter. He's not a narcissist. He's just an asshole. Even though we get along great now, but like, I too could look back and be like, oh my God, I wasted all 18 years with him. Like, you know what? Give yourself a break, give yourself a little grace, just do the work on yourself so that you
Right.
can move forward in a positive way and not find yourself in the same patterns again.
Yeah.
Really good advice to close. What you were saying was to manage your fears. While TH is, you're going to be okay speech, which is what the truth is, right? People can't see that through the
No.
fear. It's to learn to manage your fears so that
Yeah.
even though you don't know where you'll land, you don't know how you'll pay your bills, you don't know all of these factors that are keeping you up at night, keeping you ruminating, keeping you not wanting to eat or eating everything, right? It's the fear that's driving it. So make a plan for the fear, understand it, get into a coach, get into a therapist, and for sure, read my book.
That's right.
100%.
So, there's just so many things that we could have talked about today, ladies. This has been amazing. Tell everybody how they can reach out to you. We're going to have your URL along the bottom, but how can they find out about your podcast and all of the amazing podcasts and things that you offer on your site?
So everything is on our website at exexperts.com. It's spelled out EXEXPERTS.com. You can tap into our Divorce Etc. podcast there. You can read the articles that go along with our podcast. We even have the transcripts there. So however you like to consume information, we have provided it for you in that way. We're also very active on social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. We post tips every day. We promote our podcast that we release once a week. And the best way to stay up to date on our events and our inner circle support programs is through our newsletter. You can get exExperts in your inbox just by visiting our website, and you'll see the sign up right there. We also do private coaching sessions because sometimes you just want a girlfriend who understands, just like Jessica and I are for each other. We want to be that for you. So we do offer private sessions with us, and it doesn't have to all be about the divorce. It could be, I'm not motivated to go to the gym, or like, I don't know what to do. My kids aren't with me this weekend. How do I occupy my time? Or it could be, I don't even know where to begin. I think I need to get a divorce. We cover it all. So exExperts was built with you in mind because we've lived it, so we get it.
Ooh, that's a good line. We lived it.
That's our tagline.
Oh my God, I love that as a tagline. That's amazing. So thank you, ladies, so much for your time today to help me educate more people on divorcing a narcissist.
Thanks,
Tracy.
Well, I hope you found that very interesting. Those ladies are super awesome, and I just love them to pieces. If you are divorcing a narcissist, please think about getting my book, Divorcing Your Narcissist. You can't make this shit up. There is all kinds of information. It's a big book that's going to teach you how to prepare and the strategies that you need. Like I mentioned, managing your fears. That's the first chapter of my book. because if you don't manage your fears, the narcissist is going to manage them for you. We've got tips in this book on how to pick a lawyer, questions to ask the lawyer, and how to process your emotions, as well as what a narcissist is, what they look like. And I have a chapter in there about how to protect yourself in the divorce decree. We call it the what if they don't clause, and the gray areas of a divorce decree that a narcissist will exploit. So the importance of getting this book is the importance of having things go smoothly or being blindsided as things get thrown at you from every direction. Get this book, get some information, and learn more about the girls at their website. We'll have the link down below. This is Tracy Malone. Thank you so much for visiting us today. If you like this video, please subscribe and like it. I like that too. Thank you.